All right, everybody. Hey, we are back with our next speaker here on Note Camp. And this is a guy who has decades of experience as an investor here in Texas and throughout. And just absolutely somebody who's got a big heart and just love seeing success in people. I'll tell you that right now. He's a king of Texas tax sales, we like to say. He loves opportunity. Somebody who's helping people not all across Texas, but all across the country invest in the Lone Star State with some great advantages. And so we're honored to have Mr. Arnie Abramson. I think Arnie, you and I have known each other what, about 10 years now, something like that, 8 or 9 years at least, I'd say.
Oh, at least. I think we both knew each other as children about 10 years.
Well, I don't know, but you might have been a little bit older if I was a child, but that's okay.
Hey, I got shoes older than you.
Probably do. Good stuff. Well, hey, Arnie, I'm gonna we'll be moderating checks. So you guys, if you got questions, especially if you don't understand something, feel free to type in the chat room, but we're going to probably try to save most of the questions to the very unless he says something that you don't understand. We'll go from there. But Arnie, thank you so much for coming on Note Camp. I think this is the second time you've spoken on Note Camp. Last one was 2 times ago. And so we're glad to have you back, buddy. And I love that view, man. Is that your backyard or is that a green screen?
I wish I could tell people it's my backyard. I have. But let me tell you the story on this. It's interesting. You remember Bonanza on TV?
Yep.
Hoss Cartwright, Dan Blocker, right? Well, yep. When he retired, he moved to Texas and he put this together and he died. But it's still there and it's gorgeous. It's in a little town called Harmony, Texas.
There we go.
Every time I pass by it, well, the first time I discovered it, my wife and I were driving back. We just pulled over and had a picnic right there and took a picture. And that's my backdrop.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, man, I will let you pull up your slides and get rock and rolling. I'm going to jump offline, but I'll be monitoring the chat roll. We'll get you rock and roll. All right.
Okay. Does that work? Can you see it okay?
No, you got to hit. You got the green button that says share screen.
Yeah. That's right. I didn't share it, did I?
It's okay.
Well, that's okay. Anybody can share it. There you go. How's that?
There we go. It's perfect.
Shall I kick in or give everybody another minute or two?
No, we're good. Keep rocking. Roll. You've got the mic, buddy. Let's go.
Okay, let's go for it. If anyone has a question, you might want to hold it back a little bit. But if it's something I say that's not quite understandable, go ahead and ask the question then, because I don't want to move on if we're not sure what it's about. So let's get going. I can't wait. First of all, let's just start with the basics. What is a tax sale? Well, that's a great question. It's a real estate foreclosure sale, but it's brought on by a state government entity for unpaid property taxes. Now, that's not to be confused with a bank or mortgage foreclosure, because that's where they sell it because they haven't made their mortgage payments. This one is entirely different. Now, it's interesting in Texas, both of these foreclosure sales are usually at the same place and one right after the other. So it's very interesting. You have to make sure you don't get confused. Now, every state has their own system. Some states are what we call tax lien states. Now, what that means is this. Taxes that are owed are a tax lien. And that's what they sell in tax lien states. They sell that lien, and the buyer of the lien now has paid the taxes for him, and they now owe him what he paid, and they have to make payments to that buyer and the interest. And if they stop, he has to go foreclose in order to get his money, or to foreclose on it. Now, in a tax deed state, it's entirely different. The property is what's sold, not the lien. And that is what is paid out of the purchase price. In other words, the bidding starts with how much is owed in taxes. And so it usually goes up from there. And when you buy it, the portion owed for taxes gets paid, and then you own it for what you paid in. And the buyer owns the foreclosed property. He receives the deed, and he has full ownership rights. So it's entirely different. It's sort of like this. It's like the difference between buying a bond or a stock. A tax lien state, you're buying a debt, like a bond, In a tax deed state, you're buying equity, like a stock. So that kind of puts it in perspective, I think. Now, in Texas, and that's what we're talking about, in Texas, if a real property owner doesn't pay his property taxes, now I underline real property because a lot of people don't know this, but in Texas, unless they take steps to take a mobile home and make it real property, if they don't do that, it's personal property. It's just like a car or furniture. If you buy the house at an auction, you don't get the furniture, you don't get the car in the driveway. And if the mobile home is not designated as real property, you don't get that either. And a lot of people buy property thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this great mobile home, and they don't. Now, the reality is most mobile homes are going to have a septic anyway. And even if you don't get the home itself, having the septic tank there, that's a $10,000 asset anyway. But you just need to know all this, that it's got to be real property at the auction. And then the county or any other taxing entity or taxing unit can file the lawsuit to collect the unpaid taxes. Now, the county is one of the entities, the city could be one, it could be a school district, it could be a hospital, could be a lot of different things. And I bring this out because sometimes the lawsuit is just to pay back the taxes owed to one of these entities and not to all of them. So that's something you need to make sure of, because if that's the case and you buy the property and it hasn't paid the taxes of some of those entities, you're going to have to pay that in addition to what you pay. So that's one of the things you have to check on or be aware of. And then a judgment is rendered. Now, that means it has to go to a judge, not a justice of the peace, but to a judge, and he's got to render that decision. And that's so unlike a foreclosure from a bank or a mortgage company, because if you're late, they can foreclose. Not so here. They have to, number one, go to a judge, get that decision, and then, and this is really important, they have to notify everyone who has an equitable interest in that property and give them an opportunity to pay before they can even schedule it to be sold at the sale. If the back taxes are still not paid, then the property that is held by the taxing unit is sold at the public tax auction. Now, what makes Texas so special for investors? Well, number one, Texas is a tax deed state. The winning bidder is the new owner of the property. Unlike a tax lien state, Texas is a foreclosure tax deed state. Okay, just so we're clear. Now, the old owner in Texas has no rights. He loses his house. The only right he has, except that he still has, is the right to redeem it. He can redeem the property. Now, I know, what does that mean? Because it's funny, redemption has different meanings, not even counting biblical meaning, okay? But even in tax lien versus tax deed states, it has different meanings. In a tax lien state, what it means is, remember, you bought the lien. Well, that means when you bought that lien, they're paying you what the taxes were that you paid for them and interest. And if they default on that, then they lose it, and you own the house. But when they pay off that loan, that's called a redemption. In other words, when they pay you off, that's a redemption. But that's not what it means in a tax deed state. In a tax deed state, that means that they have to buy back from you whatever you paid for it at the auction. They have to pay you what you paid for it plus a penalty fee. Now, only a few of the tax deed states have these rights of redemption. About half the states are tax lien states, about half are tax deed states, and of the tax deed states, only 6 or 7 of them have this redemption right. So let's talk about that. If they redeem in Texas, they have to pay us back what we paid for the property plus 25% if it's in the first year, anytime. It's not prorated, it's not an interest rate, it's a penalty fee. That means that if you bought it on Tuesday and they redeem it on Thursday, you get the full 25%, even if it's just 2 days. And it could include, in addition to what you paid for it, any repairs that you have made, as long as you can maintain, you can prove that they are to maintain, preserve, and safekeep the property. The reason I put those in caps is that's what's in the tax code. In other words, if you go into a house, you buy it, and you take out the Formica countertops and put granite down, that's not to maintain, preserve, and safekeep the property. That's not going to be redeemable with that 25% extra. But if there's a hole in the roof and you fix it, that's certainly to maintain, preserve, and safekeep the property. In fact, it even goes so far in the tax code to say any insurance premiums you paid for that house in case it burned down are also to maintain, preserve, and safekeep the property. So you would get those premiums you paid back plus 25%. And if it's redeemed in the second year, it goes to 50%. Now that begs the question, how long is the redemption period? I'm glad you asked that. It is 180 days, unless it has a homestead exemption or an agricultural exemption, which you're only going to see in the country usually, or is a mineral right that has been severed from the property. If it's any one of these things, then it is a 2-year redemption period. Okay? Now, some investors, we're all very clever as investors, right? Hey, let's go buy their rights of redemption because it was so low a price, and then we can pay the 25% and we can buy the property way undervalued. Well, a lot of people did that, but legislation then came along in Texas that says any sales and purchase of the rights of redemption are no longer valid. So you can't do that anymore. In fact, they've even updated to say any transfer. So, in addition, Texas has an auction every month. Every month. Some states only have them once a year. We have them every month. And look, we have 254 counties. Now, I guarantee you, I've never seen a sale that all 254 counties had a sale. In a given month, somewhere between 60 and 90 counties will have a sale. It's interesting because some of these counties don't have as many people that we have on this broadcast, so they're not going to have a sale every month. But it's always going to be on the first Tuesday of the month, with 2 exceptions. If the first Tuesday of the month happens to hit on a national holiday, it'll be the next day on a Wednesday. Now, there are only 2 possible holidays that could fall on the first Monday. I'm sorry, on the first Tuesday. If we were going back and forth, I'd say, anybody want to guess on this? And I do that frequently. And every now and then somebody will say Christmas. I say, well, wait a minute. How's the 25th of the month on the first Tuesday? I don't get it. The answer is New Year's Day or 4th of July. If either one of those happen to fall on a Tuesday, on the first Tuesday, they will not have a sale that day. It'll be the Wednesday, the day after. And in a given month, we'll have between 40 and 90 counties having a sale. For the next sale is September 6th. Already, we've got 62 counties have announced they're having a sale, and we've got the list of the properties. And there'll be between 1,000 and 2,000 properties for sale. That's a lot to choose from. Now, you also get immediate possession. When you buy it at the sale, you are the owner. Now, I make this as a strong point because some counties that have redemptions, and it may be Georgia for one, that you get immediate ownership, but you have to wait a year and then apply for possession. But not in Texas. It's immediate. Immediately, you're the owner. And you're entitled to the rent immediately. You like my Scrabble board? It's in German over there. How's that? Now, when you buy the property at a tax sale in Texas, it wipes out any liens that are not government liens. Wipes them out. Mortgages, gone. Now, this mortgage, that is not a government lien, is it? So watch what happens. It's gone. I usually like to listen for a chuckle on that. It took me 20 minutes to figure out how to do that. Now, all of this is great, but what really makes it, in every case, you've got to have strong real estate fundamentals. So let's look at the ones in Texas. We have a high population growth. I mean, people are coming here from New York, Illinois, California, and everywhere else. We have an increased demand for housing, and at the same time, we have a shortage that was already here before this great population shift started. And there's no personal state income tax. Employment opportunities galore. Plenty of land and cheaper than in most states. Very family-friendly community. I moved here and ranked number 2 in the United States in diversity on a recent poll. And we have outdoor recreation year-round. Now, it's supposed to rain today. You may not have all kinds of recreation, and we've had a pretty hot summer, but generally speaking, year-round, you can do stuff outside, and it's great. So why is it such a good opportunity now in this economy, which is what the title of this was? Well, which economy is it today? I mean, every day a new expert comes along and he's got a different definition. Oh, we're going to have a recession. Oh, this is inflation. Oh, it's stagflation. Come on. And then there's COVID, keeps coming back. So what is it about it? Well, and these are uncertain economic times. That means it's best for us to stick to the basics with our capital, because no matter what, we all need basic necessities, no matter what the economy is, right? Well, what are these basics, the necessities? Well, food, clothing, shelter, and energy. I added energy to what everybody knows: food, clothing, shelter, but I asked energy because we have to get somewhere. We have to heat our homes in the winter, and we have to cool it in the summer. So it's energy also. Now, food, where does it come from? It comes from the animals and the crops grown on the farms. What are the farms? Real estate. Clothing, where does it come from? The animals on the farm. Real estate. Shelter, where we live, maybe work there, maybe go to have school at home. Real estate. And energy, gas, heat, coolant, petroleum-based clothing. We have a little of that in Texas too. Real estate, all in the ground. So where is the most real estate land in the USA? Now, don't say Texas, it's not, it's Alaska. Alaska's got more land, but you can't get to it, and most of it's under ice. So because of that, Texas is our choice for the most usable and obtainable land. And why now? Supply and demand. There's a tremendous housing shortage in Texas. There's a shortage of building materials, a massive influx of new people, gas prices, the highest in decades, more people working from home and schooling at home. They need larger homes. Where are they going to go for larger homes? Outside of the cities where the prices are better. Interesting. Bottom line, much more demand than existing supply. And what source in Texas has properties purchased at the lowest prices? Is it MLS? Is it these wholesalers? No, it's not. It's tax sale auctions. The lowest prices overall, always. Here's why. Other sources allow you to get financing, mortgages. Try and get a loan to buy properties at a tax sale in Texas. Lenders want title insurance. Now, most title companies in Texas will not insure the title from a tax sale until at least 2 years after the sale, and some of them want 4 or 5 years. So tax sales are for cash. In other places, the cash is your down payment. You have $100,000, you can go buy a $300,000 house. You got $100,000 at the tax sale, that's the most you can spend. It's got to be at a cheaper price. Now, in addition to that, immediate payment at the tax sales. So that means the prices are lower than other places too. Tax sale purchases have to be for cash or its equivalent. And guess what? The same day as the auction. No 5% down. Now, on the ones online, you can do 5% down and pay the next day, but the rest of them, the majority of them, the same day. And some counties require payment immediately when you win the bid. In Harris County, the largest county in Texas, that's Houston. You win the bid, you have to go right and pay for it right then with cash or its equivalent. We have a lot of ways to deal with those issues. That's a whole other presentation. So if it's so great, why aren't more investors doing it? You know, I've shown you some of the good. What are the blockages? What are this wall here? What's that for? Well, here's what we hear the most. It's too complicated. It's too much work, too much competition, too many properties pulled from the sale before the auction. And you've got that title insurance issue. I can't flip it. I can't sell it because everybody's going to want a title policy. Well, that's what we're here for. You can learn and earn with us and prosper. We have got the answers. Number one, it's complicated and too much work. We can teach you what to do and you can do it yourself, or we can teach you and we'll do any part of it that you don't want to do, we'll do for you, or we can do it all for you. Because we have education, we have classes that you can go to. We'll do all the research. We have lists that we put out of every property in every county and all the data on it that you need. And we have a separate list of raw land, 15 acres and higher. Another one of mineral rights. Another one of vacant lots, or one just for resales. So we have all that research done. And property visit, that's so important. I get a call almost every month from someone who says, oh, I just found you online and I got a problem. I just bought a property at a tax sale. I went to look at the house and there was no house. It was gone. I said, well, didn't you go look at what you're going to buy first or have someone go take a picture for you? Well, no, I went to Google and I saw the house. I said, you know, that house, that picture was 6 years old. That house has been torn down since then. So we have a service that does that. We'll go take the recent pictures. Let's tell you what the neighborhood's like. Is it vacant? Is it occupied? How much rehab does it look like it needs? You need to know these things. And then, we can go to the auction because all the auctions are at the same time. So you can't be in more than one place at a time, but we can. You know why? We have boots on the ground. We have people that go to those auctions for us. Our objective is to make it easier for you, or just easy, whichever one you want. Now, competition. Where is the most competition? Well, you're right. It's in the big metro areas. It's in the big cities. And you know why? Because they have a sale every month. There's a sale every month in Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Fort Worth. Almost every month, maybe in Tyler, maybe in Waco. Waco is every other month. Abilene is every 3 months. They're different. Longview is usually every month, but the big ones are every month. More often, the bigger the city, because they have more properties. They have to move them. They don't want to have that inventory build up. And there are more contractors in the bigger cities. So for the work you need. And there are more buyers and more competition at the sales in the bigger cities. So where's the least competition? Well, where do you think? In the smaller communities, which we've been going to especially in the lab for the last 7 years. Smaller towns and smaller counties. Look at this. You ever see so many little towns? And I just picked that at random. And that's just around Waco. That's not even around Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, or Fort Worth. Let's just look at those little towns, how many there are. And if they're on an artery that shows up on these, they're all growing like crazy now. There are fewer properties, means fewer bidders. Look, these institutional bidders, that's the next thing, actually. Fewer big gun bidders. Those are the institutions, for example. They're going to send 5 people, 10 people to Texas. They're not going to go to these little bitty places where there's 2 or 3 or 4 properties. They're going to go where there's 80 for sale, or 60 or 30. So there's less competition there. And by the way, the big guns, the institutions, do you know anybody who lives in Colorado and raises marijuana and they get a lot of cash and they can't go put it in the bank? But they do drive to Texas and they give it to the sheriff at a sheriff's sale, and he asks no questions. And it's legally laundered. And guess what? Those guys don't care what they pay for it because they can't use it otherwise. That's real competition. Incredible increase of demand for these smaller communities, just like we pointed out earlier. Hey, I'm working from home now. I'm also schooling from home. I need a bigger house. Land's too expensive. I can't get a lot under 50 or 60,000 in Dallas, a vacant lot, and then build on it. I can go out in the country and be 20 minutes away and get a lot better deal. And with these interstates, it's easy to get around. Most sales are not online. You know, it's interesting. A few years ago, they passed the law that says they can go online. Dallas went online, and several others. And I kept waiting for Houston, Harris County, to go online because they have 8 sales going on at the same time. Every precinct in Harris County has their own sale, same time, same place. I said, for sure they're going to go online, but they haven't yet. Interesting. I'm not so sure the online is doing as well as everybody thinks they are. Dallas is online, but Fort Worth is not. Interesting. We've been in these smaller communities for years. Up until about 2014, 15, in that area, our company was buying 20, 25% of all the property sold in Dallas County. And we saw all this coming, all the institutions coming in, and the guys from Oklahoma and everywhere. We de-emphasized Dallas and we started going out. We went to the other big cities and then we went to the smaller towns, and that's where we've been now. We bought 2 properties last month in a county called Morris County. I'll bet none of you have ever heard of it. They have 1 sale a year. The county seat is a town called Dangerfield. It's spelled D-A-I-N, D-A-I. But what a deal in both cases. We have boots on the ground. We have our people that go out to these smaller counties and we do the bidding. Now, there are a lot of properties that are removed from the sale. And here's how we track them. We have, as I said earlier, lists of, on a spreadsheet. We have a spreadsheet for every county, and every line we have the data on every property. And when you buy one of our lists, you not only get it then, but we update it every day by drawing a red line through the ones that got pulled from the sale, so that we give you a link so you don't have to redo it every day. You can just check it and automatically update it. Now I want to show you what Fort Worth, Tarrant County, looked like about 2 or 3 months ago. Yeah, out of all the 30-something they had, only 3 of them made it to the sale. How would you like to spend your whole month? Hey, I'm going to go look at all these different properties that I love, and only 3 of them made it to the sale because the rest got pulled, paid off before the sale. Now, it kind of makes you wonder, how does that happen? Look at this first one. The minimum bid was $51,000 on a house that had a value when it was assessed at only $72,000 roughly, and that was a few years ago. It's worth more now. But if they didn't have the 51,000, if they couldn't make their tax payments, how are they going to come up with 51,000? How did they do that? Well, here's how. They're being offered loans to pay off the back taxes. They're getting postcards saying, "Oh, you don't have to lose your house. We'll loan you the money, no payment for 12 months. Hey, what a deal." We're getting great loans. Well, we have an early bird program that does really well when we get to them before these postcards come in. So sometimes we, and when I say we, it's our investors, we are the service company for our investors. I don't bid against you. I bid for you. Our investors are sometimes the reason that it's withdrawn, because we bought it before the sale, before the auction, and we got title insurance before, as we did on these two properties I mentioned a minute ago, this month. Now, let's talk about that title insurance issue. 2 years for title insurance. Why is that important? Because if you want to sell a property that you just bought at the tax sale, don't you think the buyer is going to want a title policy? Or if you want to go borrow money against it, do you know any lenders that will lend it to you without a title policy? The good news is we can get a title policy after 6 months if it doesn't have a homestead exemption. It took me 10 years to find our source, but we've got it. Now, how can we best help you? You can order any of our services retail, just online. You can just go and order. Or there are 2 ways you can join us. One is as a priority member. The other is what we call our provisional program. And you can fit in there where you wish. Excuse me. Now, the priority membership, what does that mean? Well, it means that when you become a priority member, I'm going to personally mentor you one by one at a time, one-on-one. We'll talk as often as you want, every day if you wish. I love it. I love working with people. You know, I'm sure Scott will agree with me. The most important thing in doing real estate, the most beneficial thing for everybody in it, is the relationships you build. Like Scott and I were talking about how long ago we met, and we don't talk every week, every month, but the relationship is there. And that's true for a lot of us. And I get calls all the time from people from 20 years ago. "Oh, I took your class then," and it's really great. And we have free classes in any aspect of real estate you want for our priority members, and huge discounts on the services. All these lists I was talking about, really big discounts. And the 6-month title insurance is only for our priority members. We don't want to give that to our competition. Our priority members get first choice on everything we do before we put it out to the public. And we have some exclusive offers just for our priority members, like these 2 I told you about that we bought this month, only for our priority members. It's a package deal, done. We also did one about a year ago that involved buying a huge tract of land for $3,000 an acre. That it's going to get 2 or 3 or 4 times that pretty soon. Only our priority members. We bought it before the sale. And we have what we call the cream of the crop, just to play on words. We've got 1,000 properties coming up. As we're downloading them, I'm picking out the ones I think look interesting. And those are the ones that I send people out to take pictures of and have available for our priority members so that they don't have to go look through 1,000 of them. Hey, you can look through this list of 40 of them out of the 1,000 that look interesting. And it depends on your interest. Those are the ones that just have houses on them. They look like they could be real money makers. We also have another list of, like I said, just vacant lots or acreage or farmland, whatever. So we've got a bunch. And now we have a turnkey program. If you want it all done for you, we now have it. And we even have special financing. I told you about nobody's going to give you financing on this. Well, it took us a long time. We now have it. Just for our members. And we have the secret sauce. I know. What's the secret sauce? I'll tell you in a minute. Well, basically the secret sauce is just, it's where we get some properties for our investors from not the usual sources of the tax sales that are posted by the three big law firms. Sometimes there's a small law firm that represents a little school district over here that nobody knows about, or nobody, it's not on the big list. Sometimes it's something we bought before the sale. Sometimes it's an REO that we went across from a tax sale lender or something. So they're just different sources. They all are usually, well, they're all just for our priority members. And then we have our Learn and Earn program. What is the Learn and Earn program? Well, if you're a priority member, you can choose what properties you want to go look at. Oh, I'm interested in, I don't know, Mineral Wells. That's Palo Pinto County, because the Baker Hotel is coming up and it's going to be a huge draw again. So I want to go over there. It's optional. You don't have to do any of this. But if you want to, since you're going there, I'll say, okay, we'll take the pictures of these properties for us too. And if anybody orders pictures, we share the revenue on it. Usually it's the ones that you're interested in yourself. So we'll split the revenues with you, and you're rewarded for doing what you were going to do anyway. How good is that? Now, that's the priority member. Alternative, in our provisional program, same thing. Only when we charge those fees, instead of you're getting paid for it, it goes as a credit towards your membership, so that you can earn as much as you want, as long as you want to do it, or you can pay the difference whenever you want. And I'll tell you what those numbers are in a minute. This allows you to test the water and see if this program is for you, because you don't really know me. I'm telling you how easy it is, how great it is, how all this good stuff, but you don't know. This allows you to be able to check it out. Very reasonable cost to see. So we have a setting for this one. Come learn and then remove the L. Learn and earn. If anybody's real slow, I have to say that, right? So you can join our team. Our priority membership is a one-time investment, $49.97 for now. And if you choose to do the provisional, it's $600 for the class. And that also subtracts from the $49.97. You get credit for that. And anything you earn just comes off and keeps lowering that amount until it's down to zero, or wherever it is that you'd like to do. Now, because Scott has put all this together, we got a little special for you today. $500 discount on the priority membership if you can contact me by the 23rd, which is 3 more days, or the $600 for the provisional, you get $100 off of that if you do it. Either way. So, are there any questions, do you think? Is anybody there?
Yes, I'm here, Arnie. Sorry about that. I was answering. I was like, oh, wait. Cool. So
Okay,
I got some questions here from folks. Let's see. Anybody got any questions on it? Now, Arnie, you said you picked up the 2 there in the county. What are you holding on to those assets for 6 months and then selling, foreclosing? They were occupied. Can you talk a little bit? Because there's a question from somebody on YouTube about those 2 deals.
Well, can you be a little more specific with?
So what's your long-term strategy in those 2 in a small county that you just picked up recently? Are those?
Well, the same. Honestly, the same as in the big cities. There's a tremendous demand for housing in the smaller counties as well, because people want to get out of the city. Look,
right.
I know everybody on this call. I know everybody lives in the country and you don't live in the city. But remember when you did and there was traffic and stuff? I mean, people And plus, so many more people are working from home now.
Yeah.
So look at the advantage. They don't have to have a wardrobe. They can, work from home in their shorts. They don't have to waste all that time commuting. There's a tremendous amount of that going on. And guess what? There's a tremendous amount of rentals, because with the interest rate increase, along with the prices going up like crazy, people have priced themselves out of the market.
Mm-hmm.
And the rentals are there and the rents are going up. But if we're buying the properties right, your objective may be to rent it out. It may be to owner finance it. It may be to flip it, but you can't right away, but you can after 6 months if you can get a title policy. Or it could be raw land. You could sell it to a builder. You can sell it to you could build on it. There are a lot of different things out there. I'm sorry to give you all these different answers.
Well, but that's the question people ask. What are your exit strategies for those two? And then how often are you guys seeing raw land with your tax sales?
Every month. Every month.
Allison, well, maybe it's hard to tell with that question. Allison asks, what is the average profit? Well, we know that the minimum profit is going to be 25% at least, usually based on the
25%. No, the 25% is only if they redeem it.
Yeah, right.
No, look, there's no such thing as an average. It's like if somebody asks you, what's the average size note?
Yeah, it all varies.
Yeah, could be, $1,000, could be $1 million. There's no such thing as an average. But when we're looking at the property, that's part of what we're going to teach you or help you do is, okay, what is your strategy? Do you want to rent it out? Do you want to sell it? If you rent it, let's look what would it rent for? What would our net cost, our net return be? I don't think you ought to look at, before all the pandemic and all that, I used to say the minimum you should look at is 10 to 12% return, cash on cash. Now I think 8 to 10 is acceptable too.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. That makes sense. You mentioned we were talking a couple of weeks ago about some different land and how you got your 3 or 4 of your members together to take down a bigger tract. You guys partnered up on something. Can you talk about that?
Well, yes, I can. It's one of those that we bought before the sale. What happened was a guy died. He had a tract of land, 124 acres. And no one could find his widow to talk to her, except we found her. And we talked to her. And we bought it from her before the auction and pulled it from the sale. And then we put it out to our priority members and said, okay, we bought this 124 acres. It's $375,000 for 124 acres. And we're going to who wants a piece of it? And 8 of them responded, I'll take 10, I'll take 15%, I'll take 8 of them, and bought it for $375. We put a little money into it, probably in it for $4 and a quarter right now. But if they didn't have to come up with extra money because there was enough equipment on there that we sold it to pay for it. And we've improved the roads and all that. And we now have a broker who's getting ready to. She says she's going to offer it out at $3 million, but we'd take a lot less. But I got to tell you, it's so funny. I really did this the day of the sale. We closed on it like 3 days before the sale, and I was so excited. I sent somebody to that sale in the county with a flyer to hand out to all the investors there, and it had a picture of an ocean liner on it, and at the top it said, did you miss the boat on this property? And then if you scroll down look down the thing, it says, maybe not. Call us, make an offer. The day of the sale, from the sale, I got 3 calls. One guy says $5,000 an acre, but we turned them down. But we knew it was a good deal.
Right.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, those deals don't come along all the time, but boy, was it great. And it's going to be great.
Where do you, with everything being like it is in the market, And when you know in the research, where are you seeing, and I'm not talking specific geographic areas, are you seeing, is there a price point that you're seeing? Are you seeing as far as values? Are you seeing stuff that's been around for a while recently, finance stuff? I mean, you know, as far as newly originated loans or in the last 2 years, or is it just a whole kit and caboodle of what you see?
Well, this is a different animal from the loan foreclosures.
Sure.
Because those, they've been around a while and they're bidding against the mortgage company. They want to cover their mortgage. These, as a rule, don't have mortgages because they got wiped out. Because the mortgage companies can foreclose a lot quicker. Remember, we have to, the tax people, they have to go and get a judge and then they have to notify everybody. Some of them take years because if they're trying to find someone who has an ownership interest in it and he died, they've got to go find all the heirs.
Exactly. Yep.
So it takes a long time. And that's something that we have to teach our people that, look, when was this? What's the date on this? That's the difference. When they give us the adjudged value, that means that's the tax assessed value when that suit was filed. If it was 5 years ago, that's different from the assessed value today. So that's why we get both, because we want you to see what the real value is. And then, so anyway, that was only part of your question. I forgot the second part. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, if there's a specific asset class you see popping up, single family homes, it's either newly originated in the last couple of years or stuff that's been around for 10 to 12 years, or
usually they're older houses.
Yeah,
usually they're older houses and they're lower end houses. And what you see a lot is someone who inherited a house but never went through probate, and so they can't sell it and they can't get a loan on it because they're not, quote, the legal owner.
Yeah.
And those, we run into that a lot when people are contacting us after our early bird program. And what we try to do is we try to help them. And sometimes we help them, we don't make anything. That's okay. It's the right thing to do. What we want to do is help them. Very often, we can help them by buying it, and maybe even one of the things we do, we buy it from them. And I did this the other day. I said, look, here's what we can do for you. We can buy your property from you and you can name the price. Okay? Because after we buy it, you're going to have to rent it for 6 months and make your payments on time. Then we'll owner finance it back to you. Plus 25% profit, same that what it would have been had it been. So if you're 100,000, you're going to have to pay us 125. But if it's say 40,000, it's only 50. Hey, guess what? We're going to be creating those. We're going to have to talk to you about that.
Right. Well, that was what I wanted to make sure that you got a hold of. Talk with Eric Covey about crates and stuff, because that's mentioned the servicing company side of things here, him being here in San Antonio.
Oh, usually that do they usually do the RMLO functions also or not? I can't hear you.
No, they're not going to do the RMLO functions. No servicing company's going to do that. But you could talk to Max Bailey from Call the Underwriter. He does it all across the country. We had him on day one, actually. I don't know if you know Max.
I'm writing it down now. Thank you.
If you email me, I'll make an email introduction for you.
Great.
Are there any challenges on that though? If you're owner financing back to the owner on that aspect of things, besides if they don't pay, you're just waiting 6 months and then it's an eviction or any.
No, the 6 months they have to rent for 6 months and show us that they can make these payments.
Right.
I mean, that's what we did on these two, and I got to tell you, they picked low prices. So 3 things can happen. If they default, they're gone, and we've got an incredible deal. We hope that doesn't happen, honestly. If they fulfill everything, they get it back. They didn't lose their house. That's great, And then the third thing is, I guess they can pay it off. They get a windfall and pay us off, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of for most of the time we've done, those are the kind of things we did, the houses, in cash flow, because before we were able to get the 6-month waiting period instead of 2 years, I used to tell our people, look, you're going to have to hold it for 2 years. Let's buy it for cash flow. But since we now have the 6-month, if it doesn't have the homestead exemption, now we've got a lot of people that want to, all right, let me fix it up. It'll take me that long anyway by the time I get the deed and all this, and then I can sell it. And so now we can do land and we can do a lot of other things that we've not been able to do as effectively before.
Have you ever had been able to have people sign over the redemption rights prior to the 6 months or 2 years?
They now have made that non-valid. You can't do it.
Oh, they won't do it even all. If they sign it, there's no way to.
It's a recent law. You cannot transfer it. It is invalid because people. Now, they're saying you can't transfer it and you can't sell it. I don't know that it's been tested or not, but that doesn't necessarily, I don't know, mean that you can say, are you going to redeem it? No, I'm not. Here's $1,000 for you not to. Good question. I don't know if that's been tested. I'm not going to test it.
Well, it's kind of a no-brainer that they couldn't sign it over. Like especially if it's an inherited property, you don't want to deal with it. Yeah, I'd take $1,000 to speed this over and clear it up with you. You can take. Yeah, sure. I'm the rightful owner of it. I don't see how folks or judges could say if you're the rightful owner, you can sign it over. A
lot of people have the wrong. I get this question a lot. Hey, when you buy it, does that mean you can't do anything until the redemption period is over? No, you are the owner immediately. If they're still there, we go knock on the door. Hey, we just bought your property. The rent's due. We're going to be nice about it, of course. And our whole objective is to be buddies. I mean, we are not the enemy. It really gives me great pleasure when they say, thank God you were the guys that bought this and not somebody else that was going to give us out,
Right.
It is.
Yeah. Stephen asked a question. Can they appoint you as a representative to redeem for them? I don't know.
Interesting question. Why would that come about? I mean, if they're going to redeem it, you have to go to a lawyer, number one. And I'm sorry. No, I was talking about overages. I'm getting them mixed up. You don't. No, all they have to do is they call us and they say, I want to redeem it. And we say, okay, I'll send you a spreadsheet that shows you all the costs involved plus the 25% what the cost is. So why would you need anybody to do it for you?
I don't know. I think he's trying about how to speed up that 6-month process. If they appoint you that they're redeeming it, but it's technically going, I don't know. But
no, if they redeem it, I mean, that's great. Honestly, 10 to 15% of them get redeemed as all.
Yeah.
Tax liens, 80 or 90% of them get redeemed because that's a different animal.
Yeah. Well, that's Sam's next question. How often are you doing tax overages on tax sales and stuff like that? Do you see any of that?
Are we doing what?
Overages.
Well, I'm not going to mention any names. There are a lot of people who are doing a lot of talking about that, but let me tell you what the law is in Texas. You cannot charge more than 25%. It cannot exceed $1,000, and you must be a lawyer. End of story.
To redeem them.
No, that's overages. That's to collect the overage.
Yeah, so I'm saying to collect the overage, the
but
maximum.
That's not redeem. Those are two different functions.
Right, exactly. So here's the thing. We when we buy notes, sometimes we buy them cheap, and then they may have title issues, stuff like that. Like we've done this in Harris County several times, where we bought a portfolio of stuff and there was just junk. I say junk in there. Didn't have the collateral file. We got it for a penny, basically. And we went and we said, hey, let's take it to tax sale. So it sold the tax sale. $5,000 was owed. The bid of the property got bid up to $25,000. There was a $20,000 overage, basically sitting there waiting for the lien holder, the first lien holder, to redeem it. Of course, we paid attorney $1,000, and they redeemed it on our behalf, and we collected that overage in a lot of cases. So that's
Well,
what
yeah, on the tax sale, they have 2 years in which they can claim it.
right.
You know, and most of them don't know about it. Now we tell the people, we tell them, hey, you're entitled to this overage because if you don't claim it, guess what? The county gets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, on this one, the bar had deeded the property to us.
Right.
It deeded it back to us, and it was not in the greatest of condition, but it's Houston, so value went up even on a shanty.
Sure. And I bet you got it from somebody in San Antonio.
No, it was a fund. This was one of a bigger portfolio out of where were they out of? San Francisco. They bought $5 million in notes a few years back, a portfolio for $5 million, and then didn't do anything with it. They let it all sit there, and $5 million back, 5-10 years ago bought you a lot more than what it buys you today. You know what I mean?
That's for sure. Well, I tell you, over the years though, since COVID and all, a lot of the counties didn't have a sale during COVID. And then when they came back, like I live in Hunt County, we're about an hour outside of Dallas. And before the sale, before the COVID, we were getting 12, 15 people at the auction. Yep. And then for several months, they didn't have one. And first when they came up, 90 people showed up.
Was it April last year? I think it was one of the ones. Yeah.
Yep. It was, and they get them all the time now. I mean, there's a lot of people going to the auctions. Most of them are just looking to learn.
Yep.
Because they've heard about it, and that kind of stuff. And as far as I know, we're the only ones teaching about it, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's the truth on there. Well, guys and gals, what questions do you guys have out there for Mr. Arnie here? If you look, because it's really only been just over a year since things have started back up. How many of these do you purchase on a monthly basis on average? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it varies, obviously.
That's really something that I can't talk about.
Okay.
Because my members don't want us to talk about it.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
But I can tell you that we're not getting 20 or 30 of them every month yet, because we've been like everybody else. We scaled down, and we've just had a few going on, and now we're adding, because I foresee, like I say, this is an opportunity in this economy. Now we're going to start really booming. We're increasing a lot of what we're doing, of the different things, and we want more people, especially in the provisional program. So if anybody out there wants it, hey, this is great, and we need people everywhere.
Right, exactly. So it's hard to say how many attend the Houston auction, because you have the tax sales, you have the sheriff sales going on there. You also have the traditional foreclosure. So it's a big amount of people at a first Tuesday of the month. It's hard to say.
But usually the other sales, the foreclosures from the trustee sales, they're usually either before the sale or afterwards. Every now and then you'll see a guy walking around like this, and if it's a closed-end deal, he's not going to let anybody else buy it anyway. Some of that happens. I once had one of our investors say, hey, I'm foreclosing on a property and I want you to buy it. So show up at the trustee sale, because I'm going to be the trustee. He says, you'll get it. I said, well, what if anybody else? He says, you'll get it. So I went, and it was right outside the door where the other sale was. And he came out, and there were 4 or 5 people there. He says, I'm sold.
That's a little shady.
Yeah, it is. It is. And now we've started now. We're starting on the sales we're going to, the tax sales we're going to. We're starting to look at the trustee sales, since we're going to be there anyway.
Right.
So we can now bid for investors who want to do that, and that's one of the things we're expanding.
Nice, very nice there. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we had Jack Zagunis told me to tell you hello, actually, from Foreclosure Listing Service, was on day one talking about Texas foreclosures. So good stuff there for you. Any other questions, comments for Arnie? Guys, I know this is a lot of great information there for you. If you think about it, let's ask some folks here. How many of you guys, if you want to do a raise of hands or type in the chat roll, which states or which cities or counties are you guys living in? If you live in Texas or investing in Texas, you want to type in the chat roll where you, whether it's Harris County or Dallas County or Travis County or Tom Bell County.
I got to tell you, I really like, of course, the triangle, that's the given, but I really like east of there too, along the Louisiana border, East Texas. It's really popping. And where State Highway 59 is turning into I-69.
Yep.
We're talking Lufkin, Cleveland, Nacogdoches, all those. I love those areas.
Yeah, and I'm especially between here and Dallas too. Yeah. Specifically, like Belton, that area. Bell County is really blown up as well.
Bell County, I announced their sale yesterday. Coryell is also, but yeah, especially in Temple and Belton.
Yeah, Killeen, up that neck of the woods.
They're going to be one city one day, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. You think what's in between there, you've got Fort Hood.
Yeah.
Obviously, east of, which is, west of Temple. Right. Topper's Cove, all that area is growing up. I mean, Belton is just blowing up like crazy.
Well, Fort Hood is the largest military base in the free world.
Yeah.
I'm told that it'll hold 3 divisions, and there's 1 division there now. Now, that means there's a lot of rental vacancies there. And someone one day is going to figure out, hey, we can still get affordable housing there. So we'll be at that sale, at the Bell County sale this month coming up, because part of Killeen is in Bell County.
Yep, exactly.
Coryell County hasn't announced yet. So.
Right. So we've got friends and people in Harris County, North Dallas, Scott Meredith in Tarrant County, and Blaine Snyder with stuff in rental in Harris County. Allison Smith's a realtor in Harris County.
Well, Harris County, and we need some people in Harris County, some more people, because we haven't been going to the Houston sale or the Dallas sale, but now that we have this turnkey program where we can get to them before the sale, we're going to do that a lot. And Harris County, of course, is great. But I tell you what, go west a little bit too. We've done well in Wharton, in Fort Hood, Fort Bend, and in Walker and Wallace and all those, And hey, I even go to Round Top every year.
Yeah, Round Top. I've not been.
Not Round Top. They have 12 people there. Except twice a year when 40,000 come in for all the antique stuff. I mean, it's a crazy place. I take my wife there every year for the herb conference. She's an herbalist, so she's herb thing there. But it's fun.
I was through Round Top, I guess about 2 months ago, actually, driving through there on my way, looking at assets, stuff like that.
If you sneeze, you'll miss it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You miss. Yeah, it's very easy to miss if you're not paying attention. Whoop! If you're driving too fast too.
Right.
I mean, that's the great thing, though. I mean, if you look at a lot, especially with so much growth going on here in Texas, and if you look at the city, and you basically say, okay, let's just do 60 miles outside the city. That's the path of progress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look along, like you said, on your very first and one of your first slides, you look at the arteries, one of the highways that come off that. That's kind of our circle. Okay, if we don't recognize the city, it's usually, maybe it's too small. But then we start looking at, like, okay, this is the path of progress. This makes sense if where is things in, and you can see it by calling a realtor. Like, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we're having more people come through and building permits, and people are moving in the areas.
And look, going north-south, you got 35 and 45. Everybody knows that. They're interstates. Yep. But there's some other ones. There's 69 that goes from Greenville, Texas, down to Mineola.
Yep.
Everything along there is booming. town called Point. You know, they had like 12 people. Now they have 2,000. I don't know. Or I bet you've never heard of Princeton, Texas.
I have actually bought a property, had a note in Princeton, Texas. I had one of my coaches who lived in Princeton, Texas, actually.
Well, in 2010, the population was 6,000. It's now 25.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we see that with Leander, just north of here north of Austin here. Leander is one of the fastest growing cities in the area here. I mean, Williamson County is booming like crazy. We got Georgetown and
how about Taylor? Is Taylor growing?
Taylor's booming up like crazy. It was a few years ago because you have Taylor and Hutto. And Hutto went from a 3A high school to a 5A high school in basically a year, the Hutto Hippos. And so, yeah, all that area. I mean, I've bought stuff in Taylor and Hutto, that neck of the woods, and rehabbed it and held on to it. And yeah, I like it because actually prices in Austin are somewhat affordable in those areas still for the most part. They make sense.
But you're right. If you go outside of the big cities, you know, that's where the action is because people are commuting. Yeah. If they're not staying at home.
Yeah.
You know where Paris, Texas is?
I was just about to say, because when I went to school at Texas A&M or East Texas State University in Commerce, I used to drive through Paris or Italy, Texas, right off I-77, follow that all the way up there.
Well, there are people in Paris commuting to Dallas. How's that? That's a long way.
Yeah, that's a good one, an hour and a half at least.
By the way, commerce is booming now.
Yep, I know that's booming there. That they no longer have seats on just one side of the stadium; they have it on both sides.
I tell you what, that campus is gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's really nice. But they're putting in a whole big subdivision there.
Yeah, they're having to because it's just booming, and that's another sign that I like to look at too. If there's local colleges, you know, you look at these. If you look at these cities, and if there's a local college, not a big one not like Texas or Texas A&M,
right?
But like Texas State Technical College up outside of Waco. You look at University of Mary Hardin Baylor and Belton there. That's booming. You know.
Yep.
You know,
exactly.
Those are some great opportunities for people looking for places to rent or people that want to buy a house for 3 or 4 years while they send their kids to school there that aren't too far away.
Hey, I live in this community where there are probably maybe 100 people, right? I mean, we do have acreage like back there. It's not as pretty as that, but we've got 37 acres. And we just got our first dollar store. That's all we have. Dollar and a post office. That's it. Dollar.
Let me ask you a question. Are you seeing stuff pop up down in like Nueces, San Patricio County, down near Corpus Christi? You starting to see some numbers pop up there?
Honestly, we don't do. Yes, the answer is yes, but we do some in the Corpus area. We don't go along the border much at all because with all this stuff going on there, it's just not high on our priority list right now. Mm-hmm. You know, you have a lot of crazy things going on.
Well, yeah, definitely down with the border. I just with Rockport, Fulton, Port Aransas, and Aransas Pass, all that area is just booming like crazy too. That's where I grew up actually.
Yeah,
in Aransas.
Where there's Padre, there's booming, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're within 5 miles of the ocean, for sure.
Sure.
Don't recognize those. It's not the same small town that I grew up in of 3,500 people. So
that's right. Look, I don't rule out anywhere anymore. Yeah. If it's got an artery that's traveled, I mean, they when I moved out to the country about 23 years ago, we were in between Greenville and McKinney. And when I moved out, McKinney was way north of Dallas. I mean, that was the country. Now, between McKinney and Frisco, there are over 1 million people.
Yeah.
And they put Highway 380 between there. It's 6 lanes now and overcrowded.
Yep.
It's just, and by the way, keep your eye on Denison and Sherman.
Yeah.
There's $55 billion worth of stuff going in there.
Growth everywhere, getting bigger in the state of Texas, man. That's the great thing about it. Like you said, you outline job growth, opportunity, most land for people to fill out. I mean, that's the way you look at Austin, Texas. Austin's grown predominantly to the west, and they say another 10 years, you look at the center of Austin, it's not going to be where it's at. It's going to be 20 miles east or 20 miles west of it, and we've already started to see that. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. I mean, when you look at the triangle, that's 2/3 of the population. You know, well, that means what's that? About 20 million.
Yeah. Before too long, I say next 10 years, you're going to have Austin, San Antonio just be one continuous demographic for the most part, because of the way New Braunfels and San Marcos is filling in, and Cibolo and other areas.
It'll be just like Dallas Fort Worth, the FW. It'll be that, of course.
Exactly.
I know.
Cool. Well, Arnie, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been a joy to catch up with you, talking to real estate guys. Take advantage, check it. Arnie at txtaxsales.com. That's Arnie at txtaxsales.com. Like I said, if you guys are in those counties or around some of those areas, especially for you guys in Harris County, they need some help, it's worth reaching out to Arnie, touching base about that, the program. Use the password Scott Carson, and you'll get rock and rolling there for you. But yeah, I love it because it's just another facet of note investing with what you do, which is great.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing this every year. My gosh, that's super. And thank all of you for listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Arnie. Good stuff.
Thank you. Bye-bye.